And welcome to Friday Night Huddle. I'm Dave Bacon. Week 4 of high school football in Ohio. That means a lot of the teams are entering conference play. Pleased to be joined by my Huddle teammates, Dan Lobby from cleveland.com, Nate Klein from cleveland.com. Week 4, guys, let's take a look at the menu. Here are the games that we are covering tonight in depth, if you will. We'll have reporters all over Northeast Ohio. Menor and Strongsville going at it. Brecksville and Hudson in a Suburban League battle. Another Suburban League battle. Revere and Wadsworth. Revere and Barberton. Wadsworth and Nordonia. Parma at bay. Out in the Federal League, Massillon, Perry, Massillon, Jackson. That's an interesting one. Another Federal League battle. Copley and Bedford. Padua and Warrensville Heights. That's another kind of interesting matchup. Solon and Elyria. And Euclid and Medina. So you see the games. Dan Lobby, what is it you're looking at? Which one of these kind of grabs your attention?
I like this Brecksville-Hudson matchup, Division II, Region 5 matchup. Two teams that really could use this win, 2-1. Of course, Hudson is coming off of a really tough loss against Canton-McKinley, but Colt Pillay, when he's played well, a couple weeks ago, 14 of 20, threw to 6 different receivers. He's a difference maker for them. And then on the other side for Brecksville, yeah, Luke Sternad there last year. You replace him with a freshman, Joe Labus, and he's picked things right up. 291 passing yards in his debut, 3 touchdowns against South. This is a guy that can deliver the football and keep that Brecksville high-scoring offense going.
9th grader. Future is bright for the Bees.
Yeah.
Nate Klein, which one grabs your attention here?
Well, the game I'm going to be looking at is the Copley and Bedford game. Now, this is a game of retribution for both of these teams. So Copley is coming off a 21-20 loss last week against Uniontown Lake. And Bedford, well, they've been clicking on all cylinders to 3-0. However, I'm sure that they actually remember that 37-20 loss in the regular season finale against Copley. So I'm going to be watching this game. It's also going to be a game of who can commit the least amount of turnovers. We'll talk about that later on as well. But definitely this is a Region 5 matchup that whoever wins this game is going to take advantage of over the other.
Yeah, and one that I am kind of interested in is the Euclid game against Medina. Euclid, team that's been really good in the first half. 2-1, was leading St. Ignatius 14-10 at halftime after they threw a pick 6 on the first play of the game, and then just kind of fell apart in the second half. And that's kind of been the story. Coach Rotsky's trying to figure out how to get the second half rolling, kind of like he has the first half. If it was an easy answer, he'd have it done, obviously, but Euclid working on that as well. So that's kind of an interesting game as well.
Yeah. And Dave, I was with you in that press box when I wasn't down in the first half, but that game, I was, it was a pleasant surprise to see Euclid come out in that first half. The defense, that was something that Coach Kyle was talking about. Said, look, this is a very aggressive defense. We need to be able to find a way to be able to balance our offense. But credit to Euclid, great first half, but the next answer is how are they going to finish off in the next 2 quarters after that?
And if you look at Region 1, according to Joe Attell, I mean that's a tough region. You got a bunch of 3-0s, a bunch of 2-1s. That's where Euclid is sitting. So you don't want to fall too far behind, get that second loss too early. So this is an enormous opportunity for them.
Yeah, and there's again, there are worse things than being a team that starts really fast and then. Because you can get away with that against some teams. Mm-hmm. They got out to a big start. They were leading Glenville 32-6 after the first quarter, and then Glenville came back. Same thing, beat Aurora, a very good Aurora team, and Aurora made it a game. So there are worse things than having to figure out how you put 2 halves together, especially when you've been so good in the first half of games. And
they've played such good teams. You touched on it. Glenville, St. Ignatius, Aurora. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Aurora's probably the best 0-3 team in the state. So that's a good, tough schedule. Now maybe as you maybe it lightens up for you in spots, and like you said, you can afford those slow starts if it comes to that.
And there we see Medina. That's their defense. Euclid with the football, as they've been very productive. And again, they're on the Medina half of the field. Their quarterback is C.J. Hale. He's a senior. That's their speed back, Ronald Lee. And you see Lee kind of getting forward into the 30-yard line. So a good pickup by Ronald Lee. Their big play wide receiver from a week ago was Drayvon Lindsay. who really stepped up. Let's take a listen in as you can see this game later on Spectrum Sports.
As the flag flies, it's going to be an automatic first down. The referees initially signal an encroachment foul on Medina.
Encroachment called against the Bees.
Get a look there at our head referee tonight. How about we give you all the referees? We don't want to single any one of them out individually. Our head official is Pat Perry, as this play is blown dead with a couple of flags flying. Dennis Falchione, the umpire. Terry Swager, the linesman. Line judge is Andy Boatleger. And Pete Malika, the back judge.
I was just going to comment that with getting Medina to jump off sides, a lot of times when you run that high tempo, that NASCAR offense, you're not allowing the defense to get set, and they'll be a little jumpy if you give them a hard count.
Euclid wants to go so quickly, they're still signaling the flag, which they haven't picked up off the field yet. So the Panthers are pedal to the metal here in the opening drive of the game. Hard to blame them. That's their probably where they're at their best.
It is, and you know, they call the plays very quickly from the sideline. You see Coach Rodsky to the left of your screen. He'll actually yell the plays often to the quarterback, C.J. Hale. There you see him, just to the left there, right on the 35-yard line. That's Coach Rodsky in the shorts.
Well, if you can't see him, you can certainly hear him. There's a handoff to Lee, and he is whacked. Actually, I beg your pardon, that's Reggie Wilkerson.
Handoff was to number.
Yeah, they've got a number of backs. You're going to see Reggie Wilkerson, Brandon Wright, and Ronald Lee.
He stopped at the line of scrimmage by number
And
12.
a nice tackle. That's Radabaugh again from that outside linebacker position coming up to make the hit.
It's a good play by Medina, even though the Bees gave up 5 yards. They got them right back defensively after the false start. So now it actually works out in their favor after that no gain. It's 2nd down and 15. From the pistol into the shotgun. Rand on the misdirection handoff has an opening through the middle, and he's finally dragged down from behind, tackled by Andrew Horton.
Finally brought down by number 12, Adam Smith.
Watch, they're going to run Arquan Bush in motion. There's the fake on the jet, and they give it to Ron Lee right up the middle. Look at the power. Delivering blows, finishing the run. Demetrius Shannon on the receiving end as Euclid presses inside the red zone.
Probably heard it on the PA. That was Adam Smith. I don't want to misidentify the tackler. Adam Smith did a nice job dragging him down from behind. So Euclid is knocking on the door here in their first drive of the game. But unfortunately, they can't get out of their own way. And for the second time in this drive, the offense has started too quickly, leaving Jeff Rotsky a little bit frustrated.
And this is uncharacteristic of the 2017 version of the Euclid Panthers. Very clean game last week again against Ignatius. That was one of the takeaways, is how well disciplined they are. You know they're well coached.
3rd down and 8 as Rand goes to the left-hand side. Delivers a nice block. Hale throws a decent ball, but that was pretty well covered on the far side of the field, and Medina has forced Euclid into a 4th down shy of the sticks after Bush came up with the catch.
Yeah, they've got Arquan Bush in the in the slot to the top, and they have Drayvon Lindsay, who you know is going to attract attention. Now, I had a chance to talk to both Coach Larry Laird, we did rather, as well as Mike Rodak, the defensive coordinator. And this is something they worked on all week. Identifying where the playmakers, especially Lindsay, are, and making sure they don't let him inside on the slant. That time it was Lindsay up the sideline and an out route from Arquan Bush.
Well, Euclid wants to go for the jugular here early. They're out to make a statement on the first drive of the game. It's 4th and 4, and that's a first down, maybe a touchdown. It's awfully close as Javon Owens brings it down just shy of the goal line. He's down to the 1.
5-yard hitch, Brendan. Easy pitch and catch, and there's making the defender miss. A little over-aggressive by Jamison Van Dry.
And it took 4 Bs to bring him down. Nobody's bringing down Ron Lee. He's in. Touchdown, Panthers.
Panthers touchdown.
Ronald Lee gets behind big Ryan Johnson, who I pointed out as we were going through the starters. That's the right guard, and Jalen Jackson, the right tackle. And it's Ronald Lee.
So there you see, Ronald Lee caps it off, and Euclid continues to play very well early in the game. A good drive by the Panthers. Let's look in on St. Ignatius, courtesy of the SIBN St. Ignatius Broadcast Network. There's Mark Babinski, and he's inside the 5-yard line. So you see St. Ignatius playing Detroit Catholic Central. It's a team from the Michigan area, or state of Michigan, that beat them a year ago on a controversial play in overtime, but they did hand St. Ignatius one of their losses. Their legendary coach retired after the year. One of his assistants took over. 2nd down and 4 for the Wildcats. There's Babinski. He gets the outside. Babinski keeps going and brought down at the 2. Want to remind you, this is the SIBN, St. Ignatius Broadcast Network. So all students involved in this, Jake Soraka and Dave DeSalvo running the camera for the St. Ignatius Wildcats. Both of those young men are seniors. So want to thank their moderator, Jeff McCormick, for allowing us this look-in as St. Ignatius trying to take the early lead on Detroit Catholic Central. And there's Babinski again, spins, and some good pursuit by the Shamrocks from Detroit Catholic Central as they bring him down. Loss of a yard, so it'll be 4th down and goal from the 3, and they're going to bring out the field goal unit, Matthew Trickett. Really good kicker, and a pretty short one there. As he's lining up the 10-yard line. It'll be a 20-yard field goal early on as St. Ignatius trying to convert and give them an early lead here. As you see, time remaining in the 1st quarter. So the Wildcats trying to get the lead. Snap and setter good. Trickett knocks it through. So St. Ignatius scores on their first possession to take an early 3-0 lead. So guys, 2 teams that played last week doing pretty good and taking the early lead.
Yeah, and for Euclid getting on the board early, that's great. How about this for Medina? Outscored 79-7 the last 2 weeks. So you can put up some points against this Medina team, especially the way they've played the last couple weeks. And how about Detroit Central Catholic? That's Mark Babinski territory right there, inside the 5-yard line, and they were stout and held him to a field goal attempt.
And what's disappointing, and I'm wondering how they're going to respond after that, one of my keys going into that game was, can St. Ignatius control this game? Obviously, last week when Euclid got out, Euclid jumped out to that 14-point lead. They lost control in that first half, and so they needed to pick that up. So I was curious to see how they were going to respond come week 4. But it was kind of a little disappointing to see that they couldn't get Mark Babinski in that end zone for a touchdown, and they had to settle for a field goal. But Mark Babinski, he had over 150 yards last week, 2 touchdowns, so he knows how to find a way in there at some point. So we'll see what happens the rest of the night.
And keep in mind, Detroit Catholic Central, it's a really good football team. They're 2-1 on the year. They've already played 3 games. Lost to Toledo Whitmer, beat a couple of Catholic schools in their region. The Detroit area, obviously. It's a good start. You get points on the board, you score first, and that St. Ignatius defense is pretty good. And they're going to face a wing tee. So they run not only a wing tee, they run a full house backfield. Basically, Detroit Central Catholic formation, but they run the football is their bread and butter, and then they try to sneak a pass into the tight end or to a back, and that's how they handle it. If we switch gears, Medina's beat up. They're missing a couple of their very good defensive players. So, obviously, Jeff Rotsky's going to try to get that, out of control as early as he can for the Panthers.
Yeah.
There is no sympathy in week 4 of high school football.
No, especially when you're in that Region 1 and you just can't. I mean, if you're 2-2, all of a sudden, you're struggling to play catch up. And for Medina, it's just been rough for them. They beat Lakewood in the opener last 2 weeks. They played a couple of teams that are undefeated right now. Like I said, 79-7 in those games, and it doesn't get easier. They've got Shaker, they've got Menor, they've got Strongsville, Brunswick, Solon still on the schedule. So Medina's got to try and get right quickly.
We mentioned one of the games we're keeping an eye on from the Suburban League. Bedford 3-0 taking on 2-1 Copley, and it's the Indians who get things going offensively early on. They move it down into Blake trailer territory, and he bites his way into the end zone. So Indians an early 7-0 lead as they Copley caps off an early scoring drive as well.
20 carries, 90 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns last week for the running back, who also has a brother as well on the team as well. But that's a great sign here for Copley. Obviously, they're they got a win against Bedford last year, but Bedford obviously, you got to wonder, man, I know that they're going to probably come out and try to win this game because they didn't forget last year and how that went. But this game, from what I'm being told, may be decided by maybe a touchdown or so. So keep an eye on this game. This may be a really close game here.
Well, keep in mind, Bedford has some playmakers too. So when they get the football, they're a little tough to handle. So that'll be interesting. Let's shift gears a little bit. Massillon Perry, Massillon Jackson, Federal League battle. Jackson had an impressive Week 1 win over Akron East. That's a team very good. Has a number of guys back. Perry really hadn't been tested, so this is going to be, they're going to get tested in the Federal League, but this is the first of many tests in that Massillon Jackson game.
Yeah, and I mean, they've done their job to this point. 49-14, 21-7, 49-7. So they're beating teams they should beat and beating them by a lot. But now this is the week when you look at them and say, all right, Perry, show me what you got. Do you belong in this discussion in the Federal League with everyone else, or did you just beat up on some bad teams early?
And my concern about last week, I mean, even though that Perry was able to get the win against Valley Forge finished last year with a 1-9 record. So we're kind of tabling like, well, what kind of Valley Forge did you see in Week 3? But obviously, one, they got the win, but now they've got to figure out how they're going to deal with the UMass recruit, Jared Pelota. He's a handful, had a great game last week, and I'm curious to see how Perry's going to be able to contain that offense as well.
The other thing that happens when you get into the Federal League, teams are used to what Perry does. Perry runs the wing tee. Their version of mixing it up is, okay, we're going to switch the guard that pulls, basically, for the wing tee. And, the first 3 games, if you're not used to that, that's a lot. You can't simulate the speed of that. When you get into the Jacksons and the Greens and the rest of the Federal League, they've seen this. They know what's coming. So if Perry can do that in the Federal League, okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and Jared Pelota, we were actually talking about him. He's almost close to 1,000 yards after 3 games already. So obviously, that they're going to air it out at some point. But also, just looking ahead, Joe Childress, he has almost 300 yards. So they have different ways they can attack you. And so Perry's going to have to figure out a way, how are they going to slow down Jared and how they're going to slow down that offense. But now also looking at Jack, but also now looking at Perry, they've got a pair of running backs as well that did fairly well after last week as well against Valley Forge. But again, we were kind of trying to figure out what kind of Valley Forge did they see in this. And so I'm a little bit curious to see how this game is going to end up here.
Well, you're curious, so let's head out to the Massillon Perry, Massillon Jackson game. And the Polar Bears growling early. Jared Pelota rolls out and finds his man 12 yards on the touchdown pass. And Jackson takes the early 7-0 lead on the Pelota touchdown pass. So Perry doesn't like to play from behind. You run that wing tee. 1 possession behind isn't bad. You start falling multiple possessions behind, and it becomes more and more of an issue. And Jared Pelota, you mentioned, a UMass recruit. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the state. Getting it done early.
Yeah, it just puts more pressure on Perry. Like you said, 1 possession is doable. You fall behind by 2 possessions. Now you're in some trouble. You start giving the ball away. So you're trying to hold on to the football a little bit here, run your offense, get on the board somehow, and just stay within striking distance.
And Perry's not going to. They're not going to panic. I mean, Keith Wakefield has been coaching and doing this forever, so they'll get back at it. Let's check in on the phone for the first time. Bryant Kaiser joins us. Bryant is at the Nordonia Wadsworth game. Bryant, what's going on with the Grizzlies and the Knights?
With 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, it's Wadsworth 14, Nordonia 0. We had a touchdown pass from Joey Botman to Christian Slay. That was like 14 yards. And a 1-yard touchdown run by my man, Snowball. I gotta love that name.
It's Brock Snowball. His older brother, Jake, was great when Wadsworth was back in the playoffs. Hey, how has the Grizzlies' defense done?
Grizzlies' defense is good. They had an interception in when Nordonia was trying to drive, and they built off of that touchdown run by Snowball to cap it off the drive. And right now, Nordonia looking really good. Wadsworth, the Grizzlies. Nordonia is still trying to run this spread offense, which is really ain't gaining anything. And they down 14-0, and now they really gonna have to pass.
How has Boffman been running the football? That's a guy that's kind of one of those dual threat quarterbacks. Joey Boffman, the quarterback for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, he had a 17-yard run to set up that 1-yard touchdown run by Snowball. And, you know, Boffman, he's going to Virginia on a wrestling scholarship. So, you know, it's going to tough to bring him down.
All right, Brian Kaiser, we appreciate the update on Wadsworth and Nordonia. We'll check back in with Bryant as the night goes on. Yeah, Joey Boffman has been in the state finals in wrestling a couple of years, finished 5th in the Ironman a year ago. He is headed to the University of Virginia to wrestle. Pretty good quarterback, too.
Absolutely, and I was looking about some information about him after last week's win, but let me just read these numbers here to you. 274 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and then on the ground, 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yes, he is a dual quarterback there. So obviously a lot of offense runs through him. So if he's doing well in this game, obviously the Wadsworth Grizzlies offense is going to do well.
Well, the other thing is he's a senior. He started since his sophomore year. He was in the state finals in wrestling as a sophomore as well. So it's a guy who kind of relishes the big stage.
Yeah, and you know, on the other side, Nordonia, I think they had higher expectations for this season, and it just hasn't gone their way. They were outscored 35-7 in the second half last week, and now 14-0 in this game. So they're searching for answers and not finding them.
And they've got to find a way to be able to stop Boffman, and that's kind of, you know, really kind of going to be the mystery here in this game. Can they do that? But now also something that we were also hinting earlier about the Wadsworth defense. This is also going to be a test for them because they're facing some teams that were above the 500 mark in 2016, so it's kind of a good indicator to see where they are right now. But here's also the good point that Coach, I'm sure, likes. The average is about 7 points they're allowing in the first 3 games. So heck of a job by the Grizzlies, but we're going to see what happens in this game here. But
and Coach Todd, you know, had a chance to talk to him last year, just kind of building that program, and they're taking a pretty big step forward. They come in 3-0, already up 14-0. He felt like his guys were kind of starting to get it rolling middle part of last year, and obviously he was right. You know, they're the real deal. So they've got some challenges ahead in that Suburban League, but definitely heading in the right direction, Wadsworth Grizzlies. Yeah,
I mean, that was credit to Wadsworth as well. You know, you get a first year coach coming in and saying, "Look, hey, here's my system. This is what we're doing." You know, you kind of wondered, like, how are they going to be able to respond to that? But they did great after first year, and now it looks like that's starting materializing all that work in the off season.
And he was thrilled. You know, he felt like those kids had bought in, and that's always the big thing. Another game we're looking at, Padua taking on Warrensville Heights. Padua Bruins, one of those teams that's flying a little bit under the radar, you know, and you know, they just missed the playoffs a year ago, and you know, they're rolling again.
And Trenton Kramer, he's flying under the radar. The numbers he's put up, you know, 283 and 3 scores in his first game, 219 and 3 scores in his second game. I mean, he's been carrying the load for that team. And you know, we know about the quarterback they have, Kevin Pedersen, big guy, the type of quarterback you like if you're running a kind of pro-style sort of offense where he's in the pocket a lot. So that's a dangerous football team that, like you said, nobody's really talking about.
Yeah, unless they're on your schedule, then you're aware of them. But yeah,
you'll find out about them real fast.
The Bruins defense will also have a test tonight. I was trying to stop Dante Norris from Warrensville Heights, 96 yards and 2 TDs last night. So the defense is going to get an opportunity to say, look, hey, can we stop this kid from running the football against us? The offense is going to take care of itself. We've got a chance to see how well they're doing, but I think it's going to be coming down to that. If they can stop him tonight, they should be fine.
Another game that we touched on a little bit, and we'll look at, you know, the Barberton and Revere game. Barberton, team I like a whole lot, made it to the playoffs a year ago. Revere's playing pretty well, so this is a really big test for the Minutemen as they look at Barberton coming up.
Yeah, and Revere's got a senior quarterback. They've got a running back and Matt Busser that they can count on. Had 129 yards and a couple scores against North. Yeah, that's a team sitting at 2-1. Wanting to make a statement against Barberton, who's off to the kind of start that they wanted and the kind of start that they expected. So a good test here for Revere.
Exactly with Revere, but I think Barberton, where I kind of see them favoring, is they're putting up a lot of points in these first 3 weeks. So can Revere be able to stop that offense led by Zane Reese himself? So we're going to see what happens with the Revere defense. But again, obviously coming in, both of these teams haven't given up a lot of points, but just I kind of give the advantage right now to Barberton, who's just putting up a lot of points in the first 3 weeks.
Well, let's check back in. St. Ignatius, a 3-0 lead in the first quarter. They took the The drive they had the ball, moved down the field, scored on a 1-yard run. Here, a little counter, and it's Bo Floyd, the junior speed back, breaks a tackle, hops into the end zone. And before the first quarter is over, St. Ignatius a 10-0 lead. So there you go, Nate. You were concerned about the field goal. They put it in the end zone the next time they had the football. 10-0 St. Ignatius with the early lead on Detroit Catholic Central.
And see, you also know what St. Ignatius is capable of. So, I don't want to say, I was fearing the worst, but it's just, you know what quarterback Kyle Hall is capable of, throwing for over 160 yards last week against Euclid. So you know that this offense is not going to be short. But again, going back to one of the keys I said, if St. Ignatius can control this game, especially after the overtime loss last year to the team, they should be doing well. So.
And I had independent people say there were some phantom flags that came out that led to, and they weren't associated with St. Ignatius either. I got a couple emails about that. We saw Bo Floyd. He's a junior, and he's a really nice. That's a little bit of a shifty speed back. He's not as big as Mark Babinski. And I don't want to say he's faster, but he's that guy that has the other gear that maybe Babinski doesn't. Babinski's going to kind of run you over. He's going to kind of move by you and find the seam, and you saw that right there. It's a really nice combination, especially behind that big offensive line.
Not against necessarily Euclid, but when they used Floyd and Babinski in week 2, they put together a really great combination in their own offense. But yeah, Floyd's going to have to get involved in this. And I say he's probably one of those secrets coming into the year, like, hey, now that Babinski, we can let him take a break and step Floyd in. That's going to be something that the state's going to have to wonder, especially as we get further ahead and potentially if St. Ignatius makes the playoffs too.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good.
I think they're going to get it. I think they're going to make it. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that they're probably going to make it.
That team's pretty good. We had mentioned the Barberton and Revere game, and the Magic offense has been magic again. 7-0 lead, and Barberton's offense trying to get more, and it's Barker, Jeff Barker, fighting through. Good run by Barker. He finds the end zone from 6 yards out, 14-0. As the Magic putting points on the board in a hurry again.
If you notice that over the last few weeks, we've heard about different names coming from Barberton being able to score the football. So, man, this is really good for Barberton's offense, and probably a little bit fearful for the rest of the conference that they're going to be playing in. So they've got to figure out who they're going to stop.
Yeah, there's Turnbaugh, the wide receiver. We know Keith Thompson, a running back. Barker has been a guy that's run it and caught it out of the backfield from Zane Reese. So you put a lot of those guys out and say, okay, how do you want to defend it?
And you start digging into that defense's depth chart all of a sudden. However you want to use those guys, whether you spread them out, whether you put them in the backfield, whatever you want to do, you start digging into that depth chart of a defense, and it starts to expose some of these teams that maybe aren't as deep as they need to be defensively.
And talking about defense, Revere, they're going to need this win tonight because they play in the Region 9, who's some familiar names that we've already talked about. But they need a win tonight because they need to be able to keep pace with some of those teams in that region. But Barberton right now looks like they're still continuing what they've been doing the last 3 games and just running that offense. Zane Reese with over 260 yards last week. So heck of a job by the senior.
One of the games we mentioned earlier, Brecksville taking on Hudson. Explorers trying to rebound from a tough loss against Canton McKinley. They're at home. This is a Suburban League matchup, and the Explorers offense looking pretty good as a little zone read. Kevin Callahan, look at him, little stiff arm, gets into the end zone. He's not the biggest guy. He's pretty quick, 7-0. Hudson takes the early lead on Brecksville.
I'll just go ahead and lead off. Hashtag FNH top plays. If you want to submit your play, just get on Twitter and use that hashtag. That's hashtag FNH top plays. But yeah, great job running back right there. But that was one of my keys coming into the game. And obviously they played Camp McKinley. They lost that game. And obviously just the defense that the Bulldogs present, you can't do too much. But one of my keys I was looking at that game was that Hudson actually needs to make sure that they get out early and start scoring fast. And so obviously it looks like they're working on that already.
Look a little bit like Thomas Wilkes, a guy I'm sure we'll talk about from Solon. Small guy but powerful, and that stiff arm. You didn't first of all, you didn't expect to see him coming from behind the line, and then you definitely didn't expect to see that stiff arm to get into the end zone.
Well, he's kind of hard to see.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys.
I didn't see him until he came through.
I mean, he's listed at 5'2", so he's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty quick.
Yeah,
and so good for Kevin Callahan. Gets in 21-yard touchdown run, 7-0. Hudson with the early lead. That's a game they need. It's one thing to go and lose to Canton McKinley on the road. It's another, Brecksville on your home field. They need a rebound without question.
Yeah, and this is a program that knows how to win, and they're still in a good position in Region 5. But Brecksville is a nice test for them. And then honestly, on the other side, this is a good test for Brecksville. What kind of team are they? We know about their defensive issues a year ago. Have they cleaned those up a little bit? Hudson, though, has an opportunity, if they win this game, to maybe put together a little bit of a run before they have to face Stowe in mid-October.
And Brecksville's offense, just historically, we know that their program does very well. 359 passing yards from Joe Labus. We were talking about him. Wow, so this offense knows how to get down the field if it needs to. But again, this is a conference game as well. They're both in the same region, and so obviously a win would go pretty far to help them in the playoffs.
We are just about a half hour into week 4 of high school football. We're going to step aside and take a quick break. We're going to check in with one of our student reporters as we head to break. Matt Ganser takes us to the Bay student section. Take it away, Matt.
Get it. Thanks, guys. I'm here with tonight's leaders of the student section. Lee Aldridge, Chris Piper, and Dan Bradford. So, guys, what's tonight's theme? Jersey theme, baby, Jersey. So what have you thought of the student section so far tonight?
The upperclassmen have done a great job, but the freshmen are doing a very poor job.
The freshmen are not doing too great.
We're trying to get them up to speed, if you know what I mean.
They're still young, but they got time to grow. Exactly. And we'll work on it. All right, so let's hear a good chant, all right? Let's go Rockets! Let's go Rockets! Let's go Rockets!
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are 2 outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum. This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Mira! Awesome!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yeah!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum. Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contepelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your Access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
Of high school sports, Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post-Match. Only on Spectrum Sports.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle, Week 4 across the Buckeye State for high school football. One of the games we're keeping our eye on, the Euclid Panthers taking on the Medina Bees. Euclid, a 6-0 lead after they punched in the 1-yard touchdown run, and here's Ronald Lee again, a nice cut, and look at the speed. 24 yards on that touchdown run. This time they converted the point after. So a 13-0 lead early in the second quarter for the Euclid Panthers, 13-0. And that's actually in the second quarter now, as Euclid has the lead on Medina. So, you know, they've got some weapons, and, you know, you play outside to try to take away the speed, and Ronald Lee and some of the big guys that block in front of him are going to hurt you. And Jeff Rotsky's got a nice roll going on offense.
It's a great sign to see Lee actually getting up two scores already, because last week he only had 108 yards but no scores, which was unbelievable. So I'm just glad to see that, you know, well, I'm sure the coaching staff is glad to see that, you know, Ron was able to get in for a couple touchdowns and get score early. But, yeah, Euclid's got to start out early and try to maybe even finish this out in the second half we've been talking about.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing is, you know, against Ignatius, it's a little different because they run – you know, a 3-3 stack. So it's basically the defense that St. Xavier has made popular under Steve Speck. A little different to try to run against that when you're not used to it. And what they'll do is two of those safeties in the 5 in the back, they're basically linebackers that can run. So they put them up at the line of scrimmage. It's tough to run against St. Ignatius.
Yeah. Yeah, and Coach Kyle, I mean, I talked to him after the game, but he was talking about that halftime. He said, you know, we can't have a first half the way we did. So they went back, talked about a few things and made some corrections. And obviously, you know, they tried to change a few things on defense, try to fool Euclid in there. But Euclid didn't help themselves either, because it's just they just failed to score. And I think they only scored a touchdown probably in those final minute or two of the game.
And the other thing Ignatius can do, because they have a guy like Cameron Toppin,
yep,
you know, they can put him on an island, you know, and he can go make plays for them, and that frees up maybe another defender. It makes the passing game more difficult just in general. So
well, the other thing to keep in mind about St. Ignatius, they don't have Connor Kennedy yet. That's their top wide receiver. He also plays DB from a year ago. I think he's played one play, and Coach Kyle was like, "Yeah, we got to get 12 back in playing," and so. you know, they're close to getting him back, so that'll just make a big difference both in the secondary and the wide receiving core. Another game that we've been talking about, Padua and Wadsworth. We're going to check in with our Bill Mayville, who is at that game. Bill, what's going on with the Bruins and the Tigers?
Actually, we just came back from the end of the first quarter break, and Padua just punched in another touchdown. It's now 24-6. The start of the second quarter, we're just pending the extra point. So far for Padua, it's been a lot of big steady diet of Trent Kramer, and he's been carrying the load to them pretty much down the whole field.
So running the football, has that been pretty much the Bruins' MO? I know quarterback's a very good passer, so what you're saying is the Bruins kind of diversifying here as well. Yeah, the Bruins have really almost exclusively run the ball in this first quarter. Kramer's got, unofficially, according to my numbers, 13 carries for 85 yards, and I believe he had that last touchdown, so 3 touchdowns in the first half. They've only thrown the ball twice, so it's really been the running game so far. Defense turning it over, how are they, or are they just forcing three and outs being Padua? Forcing 3 and outs. The first Warrensville possession, they actually had a little self-inflicted wound and snapped the punt, snapped out of the end zone for a safety. Warrensville's only offense so far was a 95-yard kick return by Tavon Urban. So Warrensville's really struggling to find some momentum. Hey, Bill, I know you've only seen a quarter, but you know I kind of touched on it. This Padua team seems to be flying a little bit under the radar as far as things go. It sounds like they look pretty impressive. Yeah, so far, I mean, the offensive line is really getting a big surge off the ball. Kramer's getting 3-4 yards downfield before somebody gets a hand on him on most plays. It's really the only time that they didn't score, the only time Padua didn't score in the first quarter was they had a drive, went down deep into the Warrensville Heights end, and they got backed up on a couple penalties and took them out of scoring range. So. All right, Bill Mayville, we appreciate the update. We will check back in with Bill. Time to check in on the Bedford-Copley game. Copley had the quick touchdown by Traylor, the touchdown run. Mentioned Bedford has some playmakers, and Jenkins finds his man. Oh, look at that. Breaks one tackle, still go another tackle, and you don't want to let him in the open field. Touchdown for the Bedford Bearcats. 8-7 is the score as they convert the 2-point conversion. Bedford taking an 8-7 lead on Copley.
That quick strike ability, it just means you're never going to be out of the game. You can always respond quickly, and man, that kid in the open field is fun to watch.
Emmanuel Jenkins, 222 yards passing last week for the Bedford Bearcats. This offense is rolling, and it's carrying over into week 4. But now this is where Copley's going to have to figure out, well, what are we going to do to answer that quick strike offense that they have? But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, but again, there's a lot at stake for this game. Obviously, they both play a game we were talking about in the same region, and Bedford, I'm going to see what happens. But obviously, if the game gets tight, I think they have a good chance of using a short amount of time to score.
Yeah, Bedford, a team you definitely you don't want to sleep on. And you better tackle in the open field. And it's very similar to what Euclid can do. A little swing pass and you miss a tackle, and all of a sudden the guy in the stripes is going like this because he just took it to the house. And that's one of the things you have to worry about, with playmakers all over the field like Bedford and Euclid both have. So 8-7, they convert the 2-point conversion and take the lead on Copley.
And for Bedford, I'm already looking ahead a little bit because I want to see what they do.
Look at you!
This is not a game they're going to.
Sean Williams would not like that.
I don't know if they're going to win this game, but I want to see them go against Massillon next week. That's going to be a fun game. Now, obviously, they got to take care of Copley, who's a very good football team. But win or lose, I want to see what they can do against a team like Massillon.
That'll be interesting. We saw what Menor did against them, so keep that in mind. We're going to head back to the phones. We are joined by Ryan Isley. Ryan has the Massillon-Jackson, Massillon-Perry battle. Ryan, what's going on with the Perry and Jackson game?
Hey guys, so far it's been Jarrett Pallotta throwing the ball all over the field. He has just thrown his third touchdown pass for Jackson, and they lead 24-7 with about 8 minutes left here in the second quarter. His third touchdown pass just happened a moment ago, a 61-yard strike to Brandon O'Quinn. It was O'Quinn's second touchdown catch of the day. Massillon Jackson started this game out 17-0. Perry scores a touchdown, and then Jackson just strikes right back in about 3 plays. Again, 69 yards from Pallotta to O'Quinn for the third touchdown pass of the day for Jarrett Pallotta.
Ryan, it sounds like Massillon kind of knows what to expect as far as that wing tee from the Perry Panthers goes.
I'll tell you what, Jackson's defense has been very sturdy up front. They haven't blown assignments, which is where you get in trouble when you're playing against the wing tee. If you don't hold your assignment, that's how somebody gets wide open and breaks down the field for a 40 or 50-yard run. I've seen Perry do it in years past. So far tonight, and I know it's still kind of early, but Jackson's defense has been up to the challenge, which is kind of surprising. After talking to some people before this football game, I was told not to expect Jackson's front line to be able to hold up to Perry's front line, but so far it's been the other way around.
All right, we appreciate it, Ryan Isley. We'll check back in with Ryan as he has that battle between Perry and Jackson. Let's check back in Hudson and Brecksville. A Suburban League battle. Hudson took the early lead, and you know what? These Brecksville Bees, there's the freshman, Labus, going up top. Wiglis grabs it for the touchdown. Those two doing some good things. They missed the point after, though, so Hudson still with the lead 7-6, but the freshman playing like a senior.
And if you have a freshman quarterback, it's great to have a senior receiver like Wiglis, a guy that they, I don't know if I should say this or not, but they call him Wiggles. Don't call him that. Don't tell him I told you to say that, but that's what they call him.
Well, he gets free. He wiggles free. We'll turn it into a positive.
To have a senior receiver like that for a freshman quarterback, and we saw that throw. I mean,
a good throw.
Good throw.
You saw
they might have something cooking there.
Well, the thing is, you saw him stand tall in the pocket and deliver the ball right on the money behind. You know, Wiglis beat the coverage, and he put it right on the money.
They got a pretty good running back, too, in Alec Buckley. So they've got weapons, as they always do at Brecksville.
Absolutely, and I felt like going into this game, you know, it's going to come down to who can make the play in the end, because there's going to be a lot of yards, there's going to be a lot of points being put up in this game. That's my prediction, so we're going to see what happens.
Ooh, we're going to hold you to that.
Yeah, we're just going to see what happens.
Defensive coordinator for Hudson ain't going to be happy about Nate's prediction.
But absolutely, and bringing that point, I mean, the defense, that's one of my concerns. You know, I felt like Hudson was putting up a lot of points, and Camp McKinley, they don't help that case either.
Right.
But no, I felt like they put up a lot of points, and they've allowed a lot of points in these first 3 weeks. And so that was something that they needed to clean up, especially in Brecksville's not going to help that case either. But Labus over 300 yards passing last week, so you know he's very dangerous as a freshman. But take a look. We're going to see what Greg Melly does here on his next turn.
All right, let's check back in with one of the featured games that we have been following. The Euclid Panthers taking on the Medina Bees, and Medina answering, and a handoff, big hole. And heading into the end zone is Levi Pokersnick. And he is a transfer from Benedictine. Went back to his home school in Medina. Goes into the end zone to cut into that 13-0 Euclid lead. It's now 13-7. So Medina answers. They're a point after and a point after and a touchdown away from taking the lead. So good for the Bees.
And they've got to get that offense going. 7 points total in the last 2 weeks, so to get 7 here in the second quarter, and you can't fall behind Euclid. You want to stay close, especially because, as we've talked about, we know Euclid is not a strong finishing team necessarily. So they'll punch you. You got to be able to punch back, and that's a good start by Medina. We'll see if they can sustain this, though.
And I'm sure it was a great sign to have Medina see a score go in, because he was the only one that scored in that 44-7 loss to Wadsworth last week. But again, this is a conference game. These two teams are very familiar with each other. And last week, Medina lost their second running back with injury last week. So this offense needs to find a way to be able to put some more points on the board against a very talented Euclid offense.
And Pokersnick is a guy that plays quarterback. He played quarterback at Benedictine. They switched him into the backfield, as you alluded to, when they lost their second running back. They're trying to get Dylan Fultz back. He's another guy that's big play potential that's been banged up. So Bees are banged up. fighting, just a touchdown and a point after away from taking the lead. So good things for the Medina Bees in the early going against Euclid.
Yeah, they've got to figure out how to cover all those weapons. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, and absolutely also to lose your quarterback too, Gavin Montgomery. Wow. I mean, this team has got to figure out some answers and also some leadership, like who's going to be able to put these points on the board, who's going to be able to tell us, where do we need to go. So those guys are going to be looking off on the sidelines trying to figure out what's going on and what the coaches need to want. So.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to head to the phones. Bryant Kaiser is at the Wadsworth Nordonia game. He joins us on the phone. Bryant, what's going on with the Knights and the Grizzly?
Well, we're about to have a shootout over here. Now it's 21-15 Wadsworth. Nordonia is coming back. Good game. They just had a 45-yard touchdown pass to Dottie Wisdom, Nordonia. He intercepted a pass. It's like in baseball. You make a great play on defense, you come up the bat and hit a home run. That's what he just did. And it's like 21-15 with 6:51 to go in the second quarter.
I hope you have a lot of paper to write down all the scoring that's going on here. Has it seemed like has the Knights' defense seemed like they might have figured something out there? Or?
Yeah, a lot of missed tackles. The little pass they had for 55 yards. I think they was in a cover too, and I think the one in defensive back for Wadsworth did not know that. So he went 40 yards untouched. So.
All right, Bryant Kaiser, we will check back in with Bryant. He will give us updates from the Wadsworth Nordonia game. Good for the Knights. They come back and cut into that lead, and now it's a 6-point game.
And offense hasn't been a problem for the Knights, really, for the most part. It's been defense. A couple weeks ago against Woodridge, they actually outgained Woodridge, even though they lost the game. So scoring hasn't been a problem. It's been getting off the field that has been a big problem.
Yeah, Bobby Levock, the quarterback, had close to 300 passing yards last week. This is a team that we've, really felt bad for. We were talking about it earlier before the show. It's just that they've been putting up so many yards and putting all this effort in, but they've been really up against some monster offenses in the first 3 weeks. And so to see that they're kind of keeping this close with the Grizzlies right now, a league opponent as well, good sign for them.
Yeah, and Grizzlies off to a great start. Wadsworth 3-0 on the year, and obviously Coach Todd and those guys thinking playoffs. You get off to that 3-0 start, and you start looking at it, and it's like, okay, guys, we've put ourselves in a position when we enter league play that if we do what we're supposed to do, good things will happen.
And Nordonia gets into the grinder after this one.
Oh, yeah.
Hudson, Stowe, Brecksville, their next 3 games after this. So they've got to figure out a way to get this win against Wadsworth, or then you're just kind of fighting to stay above water. And I mean, you're winless going into that stretch. Good luck.
Okay, we've checked in a couple of times on the Bedford Bearcats and the Copley Indians, and I warned you, lightning strikes. Here it is again, and it's Jenkins to Johnson. 79 yards for the touchdown. Davion Johnson grabs it from Emmanuel Jenkins. Lightning strikes for the 3rd time as Bedford now leading 20-7 over the Copley Indians. Big plays. The big play Bearcats back at it.
All Johnson does is score touchdowns. 3 of them last week. Now he's got one there. Man. Number 4 knows how to find the end zone.
Yeah, I think he has like touchdowns in his pocket, and he just said, "Oh, here you go, Bearcats. Here, I got you one." But yeah, 132 yards receiving last week on 9 receptions, 2 touchdowns in the air, and then 1 on the ground as well. So Johnson knows how to find the end zone, and as we were talking about, yeah, it must be in his pocket somewhere. So
sounds like Jenkins knows how to find him too.
Yeah,
I mean it does make it a little fun when you've got speed and you can spread guys out, get the ball to your speedy playmakers in space, and then say, okay, try to tackle him.
And then you go back to week 1. Kenneth Wilkins had 5 scores, including a defensive touchdown. I mean, there are playmakers, kind of like with Euclid, there are playmakers all over the place with Bedford.
And in the last meeting with Copley, I felt like this was something that, what was getting in the way of Bedford were the turnovers. They have so many guys that can make plays, and obviously, this is a good sign to see Sean Williams say, hey, I think we can get it around the field. I think we can move it around as much as we can. But yeah, so far, I'm sure Coach has got to be pleased right now with this effort.
And those turnovers will drive Sean Williams crazy. He's a guy that preaches taking care of the football, like most coaches. We're going to step aside, take a timeout as we head to break. Our band correspondent, Krista DeFini from Independence High School, is with the Nordonia Band. Take it away, Krista.
Krista DeFini here at Nordonia High School with the Lancer Marching Band. Brass section is behind me. As they warm up, they're in different sections, which is different from last week's band, who did it all together and performed marching as their warm-up as well. This band is a competition band. They perform in state competition, OMEA, and BOA Midwest competitions. They have only scored superior multiple times in the past 50 years that they've ever performed there. That's pretty impressive.
This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Mira!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Wednesday nights. Get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview. Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
Home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contepelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports.
lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle, week 4 of high school football all across the Buckeye State. Down in Stark County in the Federal League, Jackson taking on Perry, and the Jackson Polar Bears just keep piling up the offense. Jared Pallotta throws. O'Quinn, nice grab. He gets down the sideline. Oh, look at the move. Wow. Cuts back upfield. O'Quinn inside the 20, inside the 5, knocked out of bounds at the 1-yard line. Pallotta to O'Quinn. And then Joe Childress finishes off the drive. And the Polar Bears open up a big lead on Perry, 31-7. So getting dangerously close to that 30-point running clock. And Perry is an offense that's going to keep running that wing T. They're going to keep running the football. But Pallotta and O'Quinn having a huge night in the Federal League game there.
I feel bad for O'Quinn. He got all the way down to the 1-yard line. I mean, nobody's going to say this. You know, I know he was stumbling in, but man, if that was him, I'd be disappointed. But he
ran all the way across the field too.
I think we're going to see that play again later tonight. I'm just going to throw. I think we're going to see that play again.
Just talking about that offense, Joe, he only had about 40 yards rushing last week, so I think it was important for Jackson to say, hey, look, we need to figure out a way to get him involved in this game, and obviously you got a chance to see him score in that highlight. But, man, this offense is just loaded right now, and as we were joking about earlier, if you remember that game 5,000 where you actually throw the football up and see who catches it, you know, we're going to see quite a bit of that tonight, maybe even also from Bedford too. But anyway.
Jared Pallotta having a big night. The UMass recruit looking good in the Federal League game, Jackson and Perry. So, you know, I kind of was wondering how Perry was going to respond. This is a little different than what they faced in their non-conference, and they're back up in Division I. You know, the reclassification, they're not in Division II. They're back in Division I. So.
Made a lot of people in Hudson very, very happy when that happened.
A lot of people at LaSalle a little disappointed, though.
Yeah, well, you know. It's balance.
You were talking about how Perry moved up to the Division I, and as we were talking about, Division I is loaded. I mean, St. Xavier, Ignatius, St. Edward, you know, some of those teams that they probably won't see in the regular season, but that Division I is just loaded. And Perry just, in those first 3 games, they had to make sure that they're prepared for these teams that are going to be ahead. But, yeah, they're going to have to find an answer for against Jackson's offense, and Jackson's not making it easier, as you saw in some of those highlights earlier. But, again, you know, I'm sure the coach is saying, you know, hey, we're glad to see Joe's getting involved in this game as well. But Jared Pallotta, obviously, he's playing 5,000 right now with everybody. So,
yeah, you know, the other thing is these Polar Bears, a lot of these kids that are playing on the football team, played on the basketball team, won a state championship, played on the baseball team, won a state championship. So they're trying to carry that over into the football field, and you know they made the playoffs a year ago, and you know they're trying to carry that success onto the football field.
And I do think to some degree that can help you if you win together in other sports. It's harder, I think, in football than it is in other sports, but I think it helps when you've been together as a group. You've won, you've been through battles together. You can pull on that in other sports. I think Menor as a team actually that kind of drew on that, as they had some guys that crossed over from basketball to football, and they had so much success at the same time in those programs. So that combination of just having great athletes and just guys that have won together and know how to win in different arenas, I think that's a good thing. I think it helps.
Something that intrigued me about this game was Jackson's defense facing this wing T offense. Now, if you're unfamiliar with facing a wing T offense, it can be very confusing if you're not disciplined, because you just don't know who's going to get that football and where they're going to go with it. And before you know it, by the time you realize someone may have the ball, someone else is taking off on the other side of the field. So it's a very confusing defense. So Jackson's just really showing how disciplined they are right now on defense and being able to hold the Prairie Pirates.
Well, and the other thing is you've seen it. So the Polar Bears have seen it, and they're a little bit more familiar. One of the games we told you we were keeping an eye on, the Solon Comets taking on the Elyria Pioneers. Elyria, a 3-0 lead early in this game, and the defense comes to play as Tristan Arnell throws it. It's intercepted by Ryan McCurry. McCurry heads back across the field, takes it into the end zone, the pick six, but they missed the extra point, did the Comets, so it was a 6-3 game. And then Carlone gets it to Trevion Raphael, and Trevion Raphael down the sidelines away from us. Take my word for it, 53 yards later, it is a touchdown and a 13-3 lead for the Solon Comets on the Elyria Pioneers. Solon trying to rebound and looking to get after it against Elyria. Good defensive play by McCurry.
Yeah, and that's always Solon's bread and butter. And they had a really great game defensively last year, too. It was their offense that really kind of all season long has been a little bit inconsistent. They've had trouble getting going. It happened again last week against Stowe, but they get the big play defensively. They get the big play offensively. Off to a good start here. So good signs for Solon.
Yeah, and one of my keys going into the game was how was Elyria going to be able to stop Solon? Now, Solon hasn't put that many points up, as we've seen in the past. But Elyria, they were going to have to try to find ways to be able to stop this team, especially a running back that we've talked about quite a bit is Thomas Wilkes. But Elyria right now, they need to be able to find some answers right now on defense and being able to stop the Comets.
And it's kind of interesting, the Pioneers, they have Tristan Arnaud, they have Dante Beckett. They played both at quarterback last week against Lorraine. Beckett also lined up as a tailback. They're just trying to find a way to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers and got to make better decisions with the football thrown it. And that was kind of thrown up, and McCurry just went and got it.
Yeah, and Beckett, had 161 yards last week, so he's able to put some offense together. But this team is looking for their first win right now, and it doesn't help they're facing last year's conference champion, Solon Comets. But right now, the big key right now will have to be their defense. They've got to find a way to stop the Comets, and I'm going to keep saying that until they find a way.
And the thing is, Beckett, you look at what he did last year, 1,070 rushing yards, 810 passing yards. So, that tells you he's more comfortable running the football than throwing it. For Solon, if they're in a position where they can kind of just sit back and wait on the football and make Elyria have to throw, that defense can kind of just sit back and tee off a little bit.
Another game we're keeping an eye on, the St. Ignatius Wildcats hosting the Detroit Catholic Central Shamrocks. And the Wildcats kind of rude hosts here just before half. Mark Babinski breaks a tackle. Oh, look at the spin move. Babinski, the big fella, said, I'm shifty. He gets into the end zone.
I can do that too.
I called him a power back. He said, I can make guys miss. Pay attention. 24-0 St. Ignatius. Kind of rude hosts of Detroit Catholic Central. They remember that overtime loss. That did not sit well with Chuck Kyle and that team last year. So 24-0 at halftime against a pretty good team that's 2-1 on the year.
Exactly. This is a complete difference from that overtime loss for St. Ignatius in 28-21 against this team. But, we were hinting it earlier. We were talking about Floyd and Babinski. We're starting to see that materialize right now on what this combination of running backs can put together. So, I saw Babinski last week do a couple spin moves there. So I'm sure he's glad that finally was able to work out for him tonight. So, but yeah.
The scary thing for Division I is it looks like Chuck Kyle has a very kind of classic Chuck Kyle team right now. A couple of good running backs, a quarterback he can trust to make throws, a defense that can dominate and force turnovers. He's got the kind of team that he can win and win big with. This looks like a very good addition of the Wildcats.
Yeah, and there were questions about their front six, and they have been outstanding without question in the first 3 weeks and the first half of this week 4. Well, as we always do, we're going to take a look back at the top 15 plays from last week, and we will give the corresponding votes that you can go online at cleveland.com and vote on these. We'll tell you which play was voted the top play of the week. You see the way to vote. The other thing is we want you to give us some plays that you have. You saw it, hashtag FNH top plays. That's how you can get plays to us. Again, hashtag FNH top plays. Send us your top plays. We will include them in what you can vote on. Let's take a look back. Number 15 last week. And it's Canton McKinley's Elijah Curtis, the quarterback. And he connects with John Mack for a touchdown. Get used to that connection. More on these guys pretty soon.
Yeah, right now, number 14, Elijah Curtis to John Mack again, 23 yards. The Bulldogs rolled 39-27 last week.
At number 13, the big man from Tecumseh, Jaden McFarland at quarterback. Take a look at this man with an 11-yard TD run. Bam! Bam! More from McFarland later in the countdown.
Yikes. Bellbrook quarterback Brendan Lebensky connects with Jack Campbell. Rolls out. Oh, look at that. Squares his shoulders. Jack Campbell. Good grab between two defenders. And they had a 16-point win, did Bellbrook.
Number 11 is Kirtland. Jake Nybecker breaks a couple tackles, gets to the end zone. Kirtland 48-0 winners over Villa St. Joseph.
Check out the Knights quarterback here at number 10, Nordonia. Robbie Levock throws this 60-yard touchdown pass to Donnie Snock. Take a look at this. Ooh, whoa. Hey.
Good move.
Is he going to get away? Oh, yes. Nordonia fell to Mayfield 51-24.
Number 9, Tecumseh quarterback Jaden McFarland is back on the countdown. This time, a little shifty.
Nobody wants him. Nobody wants him.
Out of it. Oh, look at that. Breaking tackles. He dropped the ball, but he got the play number 9.
Doesn't matter. Corian Rice from Stowe connects with running back Terrian Ray. So close to the score. So close. He's down at the 1-yard line, though. But the Bulldogs come from behind, 17-14 winners over Solon.
All right, keep your eyes on the screen here for number 7, Camp McKinley's Lonnie Richardson Parr here with an interception in the end zone.
Yikes!
We call that jumping the route.
The Bulldogs beat Hudson 39-27.
A little bit more defense. Lorraine's nose tackle, Isaiah McDonald, finds the ball, rips it up, and then just takes off. He knows where the end zone is. This nose tackle knows where the end zone is. Titans won by 21.
On to the top 5. Mayfield's Maurice Monroe blocks this Nordonia punt. He recovers it for a touchdown. And the Wildcats 51-24 winners.
Now check out this and make sure you watch the end of this. At number 4, Elyria quarterback Dante Beckett connects with Devion Williams for a long touchdown. Take a look at this.
Oh! Did they get a flag?
Ouch.
He did.
There it is. I was going to say, that's got to be a
Pioneers fell by Lorraine by 21 points.
Speaking of Lorraine, Justin Sturgill. Great pass to Tyshawn Lighty between two defenders for the touchdown. Lorraine defeated Elyria 38-17.
This one got 31% of the vote. Number 2, Solon's Joe Cardalone to Trevon Raphael, 73 yards against Stowe. Wasn't enough for the Comets, though, but a nice play here.
And with the top play, 45% of the vote, take a look at Mayfield's Josh Appling with a long touchdown run. Oh, he's still going. He's still going. The Wildcats defeated Nordonia by 27. All right. Yeah.
If you have a top play for us, get it to us. Hashtag FNH Top Plays. Again, hashtag FNH Top Plays. And we'll use it in our 15. Post them on cleveland.com. Nate will post them, and you can vote on them and find out which play is voted the top play next Friday night here on Friday Night Huddle.
It wasn't a bad number 1.
No.
It wasn't a bad number 1, but I really like that Elyria and Lorraine exchange there after that touchdown.
I got to see more. I need more Jaden McFarland. My Friday Night Huddle. That was spectacular. I mean, it wasn't just that he was big. He had some moves, had a little stutter step. I mean, that's fun to watch.
I just really wonder what kind of goes
like
through.
when quarterbacks run over defenders? Is that what you're saying?
I do.
Is that what you're saying?
It's fun.
As a guy that was a DB, I don't like that.
And I just really wonder kind of what goes through the defender's mind when they see him coming down the field and they're like, God, I know coach is going to kill me if I don't try to make this tackle, but, you know, hey, got to do what you can and just wrap up as much as possible. So.
Yeah, film study in front of the entire team, that can be a powerful motivator to stick your nose in there and try to make a tackle.
Or if you end up on the wrong end of one of those highlights, it could be, hey, you know what? Don't blame me. I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah. You know, we had a highlight before that. What about the job the Jackson Polar Bears are doing? That's an impressive. It's an impressive statement. Week 1 of the Federal League for Jackson.
Yeah, and then when you have a quarterback like Jared Pallotta that you can lean on, you mentioned it, he can just throw it up to a bevy of wide receivers. But if you were going to sculpt the quarterback, 6'5", 200 pounds, I mean, this is the kind of guy, that's the kind of body you want on a quarterback, and we've gotten a chance to see him show off that arm a little bit, and his receivers have helped him out. Just a team that can score in bunches, as we've seen.
Yeah, and Jackson needs to have that type of offense when they're competing in Division I and all the teams that we've talked about. So Jared Pallotta is going to have to lead that charge, and he's going to have to make sure that everyone around him is getting the ball, because I think that's one thing that they'll try to take advantage of, is if they get a lot more guys on the box score showing that he can mix it up, that should help them. But Division I is a tough division.
Without question, and the box score here in Week 4 says it's halftime at a lot of our games. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, and we will be right back here on Friday Night Huddle along with Dan Lobby and Nate Klein from cleveland.com. I'm Dave Bacon. We'll be right back after this timeout.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are two outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum. This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Mira! Awesome!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contebelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post-Match. Only on Spectrum Sports.
At the end of the first quarter, Nordonia 7, Wadsworth 14. In the stands, this band is no joke. Getting down and dirty, playing dirty deeds.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle. Our band correspondent, Krista DeFini from Independence High School, giving us an inside look at the Nordonia High School band. We're going to head back to the phones, and Jeff Sabo joins us. He is covering the Elyria and Solon game. Jeff, what's going on with the Pioneers and the Comets?
Well, the Comets started off slow offensively. However, the Comets' defense really has kept the Comets in this one. At halftime, Solon leads 13-6 over the Elyria Pioneers. Ryan McCurry got an interception in the second quarter that he took into the end zone. The PAT afterwards was no good. Comets ended up with a 6-3 lead at that point. And then on the ensuing series, Andrew Mason getting his third interception of the season. That eventually led to a Comets touchdown as J.T. Caver found Trevin Raphael for Raphael's third touchdown of the season. That was 53 yards. So the Comets offense started off slow, but the Comets defense really making plays, and they converted off those interceptions, and that's really helped the Comets so far here tonight.
Jeff, this is Nate in studio. I was just curious, you just mentioned about a couple of interceptions there. What's your analysis of Dante Beckett right now?
Dante Beckett, seeing him last year when he came to Solon to play against the Comets, he definitely gave the Comets some headaches, was playing more under center at that time. They've had him under center at certain times in this game, but they've also had him at wide receiver. He looks healthy out there, looks comfortable. He's been very difficult to tackle in a lot of the series and a lot of the plays. Yeah, the Comets definitely should keep an eye out for him, as I really think he can be a playmaker here in the second half for the Pioneers.
Hey, Jeff, has Solon continued to alternate quarterbacks as well? You mentioned Caver had the touchdown pass. Has Cardellone played as well?
Cardellone played most of the first half. In fact, the only time J.T. Caver really lined up under center was right after the Mason interception, and then literally 2 plays later, Trevin Raphael was in the end zone. So Solon hasn't really been rotating the quarterbacks as much as they have in the previous weeks. Cardellone definitely had more of the snaps in the first half, but J.T. Caver, was the one that actually had the touchdown pass that got the Comets 13-3 lead at that point. O'Leary would eventually tack on a field goal with time expiring to make the current score 13-6.
All right, Jeff Sabo from SETV reporting on the Elyria and Solon game, and guys, that's down to a one-score game. So good job by the Pioneers. He mentioned they got the field goal that cut it to a 7-point game as time expired. We're going to head back to the phones, and we're joined by Austin Opfer. Austin is at the Brecksville Hudson game. Austin, what's going on with the Bees and the Explorers?
Yeah, so far it's been a really entertaining game. Things got started when the Explorers, Kevin Callahan, he scored from 21 yards out. And then the Bees came right back, and freshman quarterback Joe Labaz found Sam Wiglos from 23 yards out. The extra point was blocked, so that made it 7-6 Hudson. And then Hudson came right back. It was Callahan again on a 3rd and goal from the 2. That put them up 14-6. And then the very next play from scrimmage, Alec Buckley for the Bees took it 80 yards to the house. They would tack on the PHC, which made it 14-13. And then right before half, Hudson went down a nice 80-play drive, but they stalled, and they did put up 3 on a 24-yard field goal from Grant Gagne, and that's where we stand, 17-13 at the half. Hudson leads.
And what's really stood out about Brecksville, it sounds like their defense has actually played pretty well.
Yeah, that, and I mean, their offense, they actually could be winning this game. They had a 1st and goal at the 10-yard line early in the first quarter, but some negative plays, and then some other things happened, and they turned the ball over on down. So they've been able to move the ball, especially with the running game, and that's kind of where we stand. Is there anything that really surprised? Is that what would be the most surprising thing from this game? Is just how effective Brecksville's offense has been, or what kind of jumps out about this one? Yeah, I think definitely the offense. I think they've only had to punt once so far in this game. So, I mean, they have been holding their own with Hudson as far as drives. It's just a matter of if they can punch it in when they get close. Austin Opfer, we appreciate the coverage and the updates. We will check back in with Austin. It sounds like it's a good one going there. Maybe to the surprise of some, the Brecksville Bees freshman quarterback playing well.
Yeah, I mean, when you find a guy who's a freshman and he can come in and play for you as a head coach, oh, you're loving that because now you're thinking, okay, now I got my quarterback position taken care of this year, the next 3 years. You can start to build something. You got a first-year coach there in Brecksville who's trying to sort of change, maybe not change the culture, but he's trying to fix that defense that really was kind of their Achilles heel over the last few years. You always know they have offensive weapons. I don't know if there's any more Tupas coming through there, but you always know they have offensive weapons.
I think the last Tupa has graduated.
I think so.
The last Tupa has left the building. But, he was on the staff, so he's very familiar. He was on Jason Black's staff. So just kind of elevated. And, you change some things. You want to put your stamp on it, but you don't. It's not like this was a program that was, down.
Oh, yeah. They were in the playoff hunt last year right up until the end. And now you got Labus, he's got Wiggless that he can hang on to, and we heard about Alec Burke. I mean, that's a guy who really, 3 rushing touchdowns against Garfield Heights, had a nice opener as well. So when you have weapons like that around a freshman quarterback, it's only good things.
And Hudson's defensive line is beat up. Mm-hmm. They have a number of guys that were starters or were projected to be starters, returning starters, aren't able to play. So that could be an area that, if you're looking at that, let's see if the guys that are filling in can stop the run.
Yeah, and I actually want to focus on the offense about this. And I had already went out on a limb and said this was going to probably be a high-scoring game. And one of those reasons was because of the defensive line for Hudson, just who's still left to be able to defend that. But both of these quarterbacks, Labus and Maley, had over 300 yards passing last week. So both of these offenses, led by these quarterbacks, have the ability to be able to put a lot of points on the board. And so I'm going to see if my projection still holds true, but obviously I feel like there's going to be a lot of points put in this game. So
we're going to check in with Bill Mayville. Bill is at the Padua and Warrensville Heights game. He joins us on the phone. Bill, what's going on with the Bruins?
Well, Warrensville Heights got their offense going a little bit in the second quarter. Padua was still able to move the ball up down the field pretty well, but we've turned into a little bit of a shootout here we're at halftime, and it's Padua 39, Warrensville Heights 22.
Wow, 39 points in the first. Is that basketball over there?
Yeah, they're racing up and down. It looks like the fast break offense here. So it's if you like offense, it's the game to watch.
Have the Bruins started to throw the ball a little bit with Peterson, or is it still, no need to put it in the air yet?
Yeah, they've actually started opening it up a little bit. Peterson did throw a long touchdown pass late in the second quarter, and they just had a drive that ended on a missed field goal, but they moved down pretty quickly on a couple of long throws. So they are starting to open it up a little bit more with the passing game.
Bill, this is Nate in studio. Hey, I'm curious about the Bruins' defense. Have you heard anything about Dante Norris, or how has he been faring in this game?
Early in the game, the Bruin defense had Warrensville Heights offense bottled up pretty well. Dante's starting to show a little bit of signs of waking up in the second quarter. Kevin Byers has hit him a couple times for a couple long gains. They've moved the pocket around a little bit, got Devin out, got his athleticism involved, and it made a difference. Padua's been trying to chase guys around the field a little bit.
Bill, you mentioned that Padua's starting to get the passing game going, but we also know about Trenton Kramer. This guy's put up 200-yard games. You mentioned him the last time we talked to you, how good he was. What are you seeing out of Kramer?
Same thing. He hits the holes hard. He's downfield. He's definitely a north-south contact kind of runner, and he seems to relish that physical challenger running up the middle. I've got him unofficially right now at 20 carries for 141 yards, and he even added a 35-yard reception late in the first half as they try to get into position for a late field goal.
Hey, Bill, has Warrensville Heights, have they been big strikes, or have they pretty much done drives to get their points?
No, it was once they got going, it was a lot of big strike type things. They didn't get their first down of the half until late in the second quarter. Actually, halfway through the second quarter is when they got their first down of the half, and from there it seemed like they picked up a little confidence and started moving the ball with a little more authority. But they really relied on the passing game there. It's been 10, 12, 31 yards. So they've been trying to pick up big chunks and using their speed on the outside.
Bill Mavel, we appreciate the update. We will check back in with Bill in the Padua and Warrensville Heights game, and that's one of the things that's always scary. You got these guys on the outside that can run and can make plays. It puts pressure on you, and eventually they're going to break one or two. So that's kind of what's been happening with Warrensville Heights.
Yeah, and for Padua, when you have that running game, you got to adjust if you're Warrensville Heights, because you've got Trenton Kramer running all over you, over 100 yards already, on his way to another 200-yard game. You've got to adjust to that. And then they start going to those weapons outside. They start going to those, they start letting their quarterback let loose a little bit because you're sneaking some safeties up or you're loading the box up a little bit. So Padua is such a balanced team. They're going to be really difficult to defend, for anybody moving forward.
In Warrensville Heights, they're going to have their hands full with that offense. But probably my big surprise is Warrensville Heights. Just putting up a lot of points, doing this quick strike offense. That's probably the biggest surprise for me in particular. But great job trying to keep it close with the Padua Bruins. But Padua has that size as well, and so I think that's probably one of the advantages they're going to have against the Tigers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You've got the quarterback that can throw the ball, but if you've got a running back that can carry the load, there's no need. The old saying is you throw the ball in the air and there three things can happen and two of them are bad. So if you can run the football effectively, it sets up everything.
Especially against a team like Warrensville Heights that loves the big play. So
keep
the ball out of their hands, put it in the hands of your guy, and let him just rack up another 200-yard rushing game.
Another game that we've been keeping an eye on. We haven't checked in with it yet. Twinsburg taking on Cuyahoga Falls. The Tigers 2-1 on the year. And Twinsburg with the football and a nice run is getting close to first down yardage is Cameron McLean. You see the score, third quarter. Twinsburg in the white, rotating quarterbacks this year as well. So it's kind of interesting. That's Adam Vandemotter. He is a junior, and he's one of their main quarterbacks. Seth Grabowski also getting time as well, the senior. But the shotgun formation, and you see they've got big play guys. Look at the size of their wide receivers, and those guys can run. So shotgun formation for Vandemotter, and they put a man in motion, and Vandemotter keeps it. And Vandemotter gets down near the 30-yard line, so good pickup on the little zone read after they faked the jet sweep. And so, you know, Twinsburg is one of those teams, a lot of juniors that played as sophomores, won their last 4 games last year, have won 2 of their first 3. This is a team that believes they're a playoff team. They feel really good about where they're going and what they're doing.
Cuyahoga Falls, you're hoping that track maybe slows Twinsburg down a little bit, but it doesn't look like that's happening right now.
There's McLean again, breaking tackles. Cameron McLean into Cuyahoga Falls territory as Mike Bell in his 3rd year. So the guys that are juniors are his initial freshman class. And you know, when he took over, he felt like they had the makings of a good class, and it looks like they're a year ahead of time maybe.
Twinsburg also has to feel pretty good about themselves right now going into the Suburban League game, coming off an overtime win against last year's champion Aurora, the Greenmen. So, you know, great start to the season so far.
There's McLean again, bouncing it, and he gets inside the 30 down to the 29-yard line. A nice run by Cameron McLean. McLean, one of the only guys that's in the skill positions that is a senior. So one of those leaders, that senior leader that everybody likes to talk about, as they're now at the 30-yard line.
Your only loss, if you're Twinsburg, is a Solon win. That was a game we were following a couple weeks ago.
By
it was a back-and-forth game. It's a really good battle.
And you know what? They felt like they could have won that game.
Yeah.
Twinsburg felt like they could have won that game against a perennial playoff team. You see 2nd down and 5 from the 30-yard line. Vandemotter feels like he has some room, but a nice play by the D end to shut that down. Is nice play making the tackle for Cuyahoga Falls. It's James Cross.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of didn't get sucked in there.
Yeah, and I mean, and they just got in the teeth of that offense. You know, being able to come up with that sack there.
So 3rd and 5.
Cuyahoga Falls helmets. I like those helmets. That's
Tigers,
my
man.
weekly
You know
uniform review right there. Those are good uniforms.
You know, you were right in my mind. I was thinking about that. Huh.
3rd down and 5 from the 30. They stack it in a little bit. Fake the zone read. Vandemotter fighting short of the 1st down, 4th and 2. So decision time now for Mike Bell. First man there was the linebacker, Jordan Williams. 6'1", 200-pound linebacker. And it looks like decision's pretty easy. We're going for it on 4th down and 2. Didn't have to think about that very long. 4th and 2 from the 27. Same basic formation. McLean through the hole. Cameron McLean into the end zone. Touchdown Twinsburg as they convert on the 4th and 2. 20-6. Twinsburg leading. Point after coming for the Twinsburg Tigers.
And they just knew they could run the ball. You know, that whole series, they just knew that if they stayed on the ground, whether it was a quarterback, whether it was McLean, they were going to be able to run the football, go for it on 4th down, no-brainer there, and it turns into a big play. Nice
job by the guys up front. They have some skill position guys out wide in Radford and Edgerson that you have to account for, and the guys up front opening holes for McLean and Vandemotter.
Yeah, and no mistake. I mean, the coaching staff knows what it has on offense to be able to pick from and what they want to do. But here's the thing: if Twinsburg gets ahead in this game, you know, believe that they're going to put Cam. They're going to keep giving Cam McLean the ball. He had 34 carries last week, over 136 yards and a touchdown. So they're not shy about giving him the football. But definitely, if this game, you know, gets a little bit out of hand for Cuyahoga Falls, you know, Cam's going to keep running that ball. So.
And you know what? Way to go, Tigers! Those juniors stepping up. McLean a senior, but they're on their way to being 3-1 and feeling pretty good about what's going on. Well, a team that feels pretty good about what they're doing, St. Ignatius taking on Detroit Catholic Central and leading 24-0 at halftime. Bo Floyd gets the handoff, cuts upfield. I told you Bo Floyd has some speed. Oh, look at this stiff arm.
Staying in bounds.
Bo Floyd, the 5'9", 160-pound junior, 72 yards to make it 30-0, point after coming. And that would put it to a running clock in the 3rd quarter, 31-0. St. Ignatius getting their revenge on Detroit Catholic Central. And Bo Floyd has a little bit of Jets there.
Bo Floyd and Mark Babinski having a little back and forth out there. Anything you can do, I can do
little
better.
Thunder and lightning.
We're going to see that one, by the way, in the top 15 as well, I'm sure. The way he stayed in bounds on that stiff arm, he was going.
We're going to have 25 plays in our top 15
shots already.
Yeah, Wildcats hashtag FNH top plays. It's FNH top plays. If you want to submit that video on that play by Floyd. But yeah, we were talking about that tandem of Babinski and Floyd. You know, a great group. And I think that was probably one of the differences in last year's overtime loss. I said, look, let's try to throw Floyd at Detroit and see what happens. So.
Well, you know, last year they had Jimmy Andrews, who was kind of banged up, to go with Babinski. So, you know, every year the names change, but you always know you're going to have a quarterback that can throw the ball, and you're always going to have some guys that can run the football for the St. Ignatius Wildcats. And, you know, the first AP polls came out. St. Xavier, the defending state champs, were 1. St. Ignatius, the runners-up, lost double overtime. They were number 2. You throw St. Ed's up there, Stowe in there. It's a lot of the teams you would expect.
You know what else they all seem to have in common is the guys up front. You know, that offensive line for all of those teams, you can look at and say, yeah, that's a good unit. Yeah, that's a group that can protect its quarterback, can open up holes, especially when you're talking about Ignatius, especially when you're talking about Eds. Those offensive lines are big and tough, and they can push you around.
Yeah, Darian Kennard, the left tackle for St. Ignatius, 6'7", 330 pounds, and he's going to Kentucky, and he was heavily recruited, but the guy's legs are the size of my waist. I was standing next to him going, oh my, and he can move his feet. That's the thing that's scary about these guys. They're that big, and they have really quick, agile feet, which you shouldn't say about a 6'7", 330-pound guy.
It's almost not fair.
And he's conditioned as well, because we also know that he also plays on both sides of the football as well. But no, it definitely in the state of Ohio, when the weather starts getting colder, you're going to have to rely on that running game. And so to have an offensive line as big as they are and able to move, you know, that's going to be a big help. And then also have not 1 but 2 running backs that can carry the ball.
Yep. And you got some wide receivers that can catch it, so you. Yeah, you're ready to go, and their kicking game's very good as well. So that's always an added bonus that you have with St. Ignatius. It seems like
one of the things about Chuck Kyle too that I've always loved is, you know, he's talked about this with his kicking game. He's always got a good kicker, and he's never afraid to try long kicks because, of course, in high school you kick the ball out of the end zone, it's touchback. And he kind of uses that rule to his advantage sometimes. If he's got a 4th down that maybe he doesn't want to go for, but he doesn't want to punt,
he's willing
to roll his kicker out, and as long as he can at least get it out of the back of the end zone, it's just coming out to the 20.
Yep, and he's not afraid to tap into the soccer players from, you know,
I hear they've got a pretty good soccer program.
They got a pretty good soccer program. Kids will go there to go to soccer after they've won a couple state championships as well. So.
Yeah, and there's a reason why there's 0 points on the other side of the scoreboard as well. And one of those guys who actually did really well last week against Euclid was linebacker Logan Joyce. Had about 6.5 tackles last week. But this defense is also, you know, another group that is going to be instrumental in St. Ignatius going as far, and maybe even try to get back to the state final last year against St. Xavier.
Well, you can be sure their target is let's get back and let's get one of those. We're going to check in with our student reporter, Matt Ganser from Bay High School. Bay taking on Parma. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks, guys. The Rockets lead the Parma Redmen 7-0 at halftime. This game has been a very classic Northern Ohio football game, very ground and pound. The defense has played very well for the Rockets, forcing 2 turnovers. But to win in the second half, the offense has to catch. After 2 Rockets interceptions, the offense has come away with no points. The running game has been very decent for the Rockets, but the Redmen have obviously been at the end and starting to be able to have more success with shutting it down. The vertical passing game will be key for a Rockets victory to start spreading up the field, which should help open up the Rocket, which should help open up the passing game. Back to you guys.
Matt Ganser is, yeah, absolutely. It's second one. Now the question is, it's jersey night. Is that a Myles Garrett jersey or a Jamar Miller jersey?
I'm gonna guess it's a Miles Garrett.
Are you saying he's a little too young for the Jamar Miller?
And say that A, he's probably a little too young and a little too smart.
Well, Jamar Miller was a pretty good player at this
jersey.
Jamar Miller was a pretty good player for a number of years.
I guess he was. Still, Miles Garrett.
But, you know, Matt's going, who is Jamar Miller? That's before I was born.
Oh, wow.
Jersey night, I love it.
Yeah, this particular game, I mean, I know both teams favor the run, and obviously that's kind of clear in the score right now. But, you know, one of the things that I don't know if a lot of people knew was that Trey Pasota, who's a running back for Bay, didn't even play last week. So they had to go to a couple of other guys that run the ball, and obviously they pulled a win off against Fairview with a 38-14 win. But, yeah, I mean, Bay, they have plenty of guys that can run the football behind that offensive line, and that's going to be key as they move further ahead here in the Great Lakes Conference. So.
Well, one of the games that we're keeping our eye on is Bedford and Copley. Matt Gould is at that game, and he has this report from halftime. Matt?
This is Matt Gould for cleveland.com and Friday Night Huddle, where it has turned into a rout. Copley came out with a methodical drive to start out the game, took a 7-0 lead, but it has been all Bedford since then. The Bearcats are up 34-7 at halftime. And let me read off some stats for you right now here. Emmanuel Jenkins, quarterback for Bedford, 322 yards. And his top two targets, as you've probably seen so far, have been Davion Johnson and D'Angelo Howard. Now, D'Angelo is in place running the football for Kenny Wilkins tonight. Kenny is serving a 2-game suspension because he was ejected last week against Garfield Heights in another blowout for this Bedford team, which is 3-0, looking to go 4-0 tonight. They're well on their way with that. But just to give you some of D'Angelo's numbers at halftime, 2 catches, 141 yards. Of course, you might have noticed I mistakenly tweeted for a second Davion Johnson's touchdown catch for one of D'Angelo's. See, I'm already getting mixed up here. D'Angelo Howard, all you need to know, he's got 3 touchdowns right now, 1 rushing, 2 receiving, so 2 touchdown catches for 141 yards, and on the ground, 10 rushes for 81 yards. Meanwhile, Davion Johnson, 5 catches, 147. So you can see why Emmanuel Jenkins has all those yards at halftime. It's 34-7 Bedford. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Gould.
All right, Matt. I got to ask, Dan, did you start Jenkins in your high school fantasy football thing?
No, I left him on my bench, as usual. I was thinking I'd put him in there and left him on my bench.
Jenkins had a little over 200 yards passing last week, and he has over 300. Did I hear that right from Matt Gould? You know, the Bedford's offense, you thought looking at the first 3 games they were clicking, but now, my goodness, what can they do right now in that region? And obviously, a win for each of these programs will help you kind of put you ahead in that playoff race in Division II, Region 5, but man.
Well, if you're playing Bedford, they're going to get their playmakers in space, and they're going to force you to tackle in the open field. They're going to spread you out and say, okay, we think our guy is going to be your guy when we get him in space. Most of the time, I'm going to go with Coach Sean Williams and Bedford's guys.
It's working tonight.
Yeah.
Get those one-on-one matchups and just win those one-on-one matchups, and that's exactly what's happening in this game. They've just blown the doors off of Copley to this point. And Copley, even though they're replacing a lot of talent from a very good football team, they're still a good football team this year. So, this is an impressive performance.
But I just can't see them putting that many points up against Bedford now at this point in the game. Jacob Noladas had 106 yards last week passing, but just that Copley offense, I don't know if they're going to be able to put that much together against Bedford right now because, they're cruising right now. It looks like they're going to come out with a win.
Well, and the other thing is Bedford scores one more point, another touchdown, 30 points, it starts running clock. Yeah. And that, the thing is that clock, they go to that running clock and it just, you can't get it to slow down. You know what I mean? It just gets away from you in a hurry.
12 minutes is not very long. You find that out when that running clock starts. Those high school quarters are not real long.
So, again, Sean Williams, guys, hats off to them. That's you come out and you take care of business and you try to get back at it. That's what you have to do. Celebrate, and then come Saturday morning, get ready to come back and get ready for Week 5. So
yeah. And that's the job of the coach. Let your guys enjoy the wins and then get them ready to win again. And if you keep doing that, you keep stacking good weeks, good days, good hours on top of each other, you're going to be playing into November a little bit.
And again, to recap, last year these two teams faced each other in the last week of the season, 37-20 in favor of Copley. But I'm sure Bedford remembered that, thought about that, and that's one that I'm sure is probably motivation. And I'm sure we'll hear from Coach talking about that. But one of the key pieces for Bedford moving ahead, and also in this game, was that they had to limit the turnovers. And it looks like they're doing a job of that right now, and it looks like they're keeping pace to maybe even pull out this win here, and very well so, possibly.
Well, let's take a look. St. Ignatius, Detroit Catholic Central. We've been looking in on this, and we'll go back to it. And the Wildcats back at it. Going up top, Schneider grabs it for the touchdown. And Sam Schneider has had an outstanding start to the season. So we've seen a number of running touchdowns, and now we see a passing touchdown. And Kyle Hall, the starter, is out. That's Delahunty in. Back to a running clock as it goes to 38-7. But Sam Schneider, a guy that has really stepped up and taken advantage of Connor Kennedy not being able to go. And kind of interesting, they refer to him as their Julian Edelman, and he's not a big guy. They get him the ball, and he just seems to find a way to gain yardage, after the catch, after contact. So Sam Schneider got behind the defense, and you don't want to let that happen.
No, not at all. And that was a really good throw too, and that's that's one of the things the running clock actually allows you to do. If you've got a big lead, you can still kind of throw the ball a little bit and try and get maybe your backup some real work, as opposed to just running the ball and trying to be sportsmanlike and run out the clock. That's kind of happening on its own. So you get a chance to see your backup quarterback make a play like that, a really nice throw and catch.
And as many plays as Sam Schneider made last week against Euclid, I was surprised he didn't even come out with a touchdown. So to see him get a touchdown, I'm sure that he's got to be excited about that after all the effort he put in last week to kind of preserve that win for the Wildcats. But yeah, St. Ignatius and Sam Schneider, and that was probably a good analogy, Julian Edelman.
Yeah, I wish it was mine. It was their offensive coordinator, Nick Restifos. So. And you know what? You saw that. You definitely saw it. He caught the ball in traffic. He caught the ball on the sidelines, and he just looked like a tough kid. Not the biggest guy. Took hits and gained yardage. That's all you want from a receiver.
There's something about that number. It's that number 3 at St. Ignatius. It always seems to be a good receiver, good DB. That number 3 is a.
They usually only give it out. It's like
yeah.
No, you can't have it. Okay, you can have it.
You got to get a Julian Edelman comparison before you can have this.
Yeah, and going back to Sam, I mean, that's a great piece to have, especially when you guys are moving forward ahead here already in week 4, because Division I is a tight race. You see who's going to get those 8 playoff spots in Region 1. But Sam, again, we saw him last week against Euclid, pulled off some great catches. But got a touchdown this week, so good job.
Yeah, there's a lot of weapons for the St. Ignatius Wildcats, and so Detroit Catholic Central scored, and St. Ignatius answers 38-7. Looking good.
Yeah, I mean that's we've talked about it a bunch tonight. That just looks like a football team that state finalists a year ago, and they look like a football team that is on a path or back to Stark County.
Well, there's. The road is fraught with landmines because there's, how they finish. There's Moeller, Xavier, Eds, and then
the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean that region. That region alone is just completely stacked.
At that point, if that's weeks 7 or 8, 9, and 10, by the time you get to week 11, it's like, okay, I think we can handle that.
And I guess that's the goal. I mean, that's why you play this type of schedule. You want to be able to handle this. But just the teams in Region 1 are just all performing so well. Obviously, Perry's kind of taking it on the chin tonight, but you're talking about Ignatius, Stowe, McKinley, Eds, Jackson, who's the team that's delivering that blow to Perry right now. Menor, we haven't talked about them much tonight, but every week we're talking about how good they are. It's just a stacked region. There's going to be some really good teams that miss the playoffs in that region, and the teams that make it are in for just an absolute grind.
Well, and Ignatius is a team that, if they end up not getting it done against Moeller, Xavier, Eds. They could be in the bottom 4. So, you know, you get a home game, and oh, by the way, St. Ignatius is coming to play you in week 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Congratulations for that home game.
Great job on the 2 seed. Enjoy the gate receipts, and we'll see you next season.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought what was fascinating about this season for the Wild was